Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week ahead. I am here a few days late as it's taken me some time to return home from the road and in my home studio. So I'm coming to you this week just after the Venus-Sun conjunction, which if I had done the week ahead on my normal day, we would have tuned in. But I know for myself, I was in the midst of a forest in the middle of Oregon, deeply immersed in the callings of my heart and also experiencing the heartbreak that is the changes, the letting go, the loss, the call to transform our lives, that we are all to evolve. The calling to evolve always requires our heart, it requires our mind, and it requires our being to meet the deepest parts of us. So this Venus-Sun conjunction in Leo was incredibly tender for me. And as I've been reflecting on it, and the calling from Pluto, which is in Capricorn, this last degree, squaring to the nodal axis, which is South Node ruled by Venus, North Node ruled by Mars, right? These polarities, the polarization of our lives can really be intensifying around the heart. And what is the heart? The longings of the heart, the desires of the heart, what we are calling for in our lives. And in this past weekend, I received several songs as I was in the midst of deep heartbreak and really facing the reality of what is in my life, the reality of where my relationships are, where I am limited and lost or unable to evolve, right? Evolution has two elements: cooperation, right? Where we are cooperating with that evolution, where we are going with the flow of the changes, we are leaning into that which we are calling, that which is being called of us, that which is, right? There's cooperation and there's resistance. And in this weekend, I realized that resistance, when we are fighting it, struggling with it, right? The Mars energy might be intensively focused on separating from things, separating us in a way that is protecting the shadow of our resistance. And what is our resistance, right? Pluto and Capricorn, power structures, are, the forms of institutions, the structures of our lives that have yet to change form into something new, something that calls to the equality, the wholeness, the sovereignty, the union of who we are within ourselves and with the other, right? Libra, Aries, self-other. Cancer, Capricorn, mother, father. These are cardinal axes that are challenging our commitments, our relationships, our lives, are calling us, Venus in Leo, to creatively rebirth, renew, return to the heart of what we are here for, right? Leo, purpose, the purpose of a child, the purpose of joy, the purpose of our innocence, the purpose of our heart. And so I put up this piece of art that I did a few years ago, which has 3 passages on it, and they were sort of the recipe of spiritual following that I received from a teacher who I was listening to at the time. Said, follow the longings of the heart. Give peace of mind. Peace of mind is the, passing on of the trust, the faith, the hope, free of doubt, free of despair, free of like confusion and uncertainty, and let us join together. Because we are all walking together on this path. We are all healing together. We are all growing together. While separation may have been, while fear, while domination, while, all of these things may have been the dominant imprint, the trauma imprint of our lives of the past several years or several thousand years, depending on your perspective, we are called to follow the heart. And a part of what I experienced was Venus went through her Cazimi, and I'll share the chart with you in a moment. Was that, it was like a burning off, a breaking open of the heart in an experience of heartbreak, in meeting the longings and the callings of my heart, and where the seeming external authority or other or counterpart is in resistance and unwilling to join together, right? And in that resistance, that's where it calls up all of my resistance, all of my trauma, all of my past, all of my, right? Leo is about the self, and we can be connecting with a sense of self that is so young, so tender, and so, it's like, imagine yourself when you were a child, witnessing your parents and witnessing their process, and there was something so much bigger than you happening in their lives, but the only filter through which you had to see what was unfolding in your life was the eyes of a child, right? The relational capacities of a child, the heart of a child. And so many of us, that talk about inner child work and reparenting work and repair work, renewal work in our lives. But to really dissolve, this is soul work. To really evolve, this is the evolution of our souls. And it's not just from this lifetime. Many times these are karmic dynamics. Whether you believe in past lives or not doesn't really matter, because these dynamics can be passed down through ancestral generations. These fears, family dynamics are a big part of the work that I do. And these dynamics are not originating with us. Pluto in Capricorn is originating with a 248-year cycle. So this is big archetypal work that we're doing. And this weekend has been a powerful experience for me, which I feel like I'm still deeply integrating. But so that was Sunday, and we had Monday, the moon moved into Leo, and here we are now, Tuesday. The moon is in this closing phase, closing cycle with Venus. So the moon, as I'm recording this, is applying to this Venus here, retrograde at 19 degrees Leo. She's going to go as far back as 12 degrees Leo. And Juno, the asteroid goddess of marriage and commitment, has just entered the sign of Leo, like really speaking to the sovereign, feminine, commitment to self-love, commitment to self-value, commitment to following the heart, following the heart no matter what. And I spoke about this in my video last week, but the practicality of that following might mean so much disruption, so much destruction, so much despair, so much grief about our lives as they are, about what needs to change, about how far we feel we are from that which we might imagine to be our joy, our delight, our calling, our love, right? And whether you're separated from a relationship or leaving a relationship or ending something or desiring something that hasn't come in yet or desiring a change that hasn't come in yet, this dark time of the moon is an incredibly sacred, fallow time. The light of the moon cannot be seen at this time. So, I've been really paying attention to how do I meet this darkness, this uncertainty, right? South Node in Libra, it wants to resolve, Venus wants to resolve, even Pluto wants to resolve through the relationship. And yet there might be separation, there might be lack of communication or lack of clarity, or there might be challenges that we are faced, right? The shadow of Leo can be where, it's like a child has a huge temper tantrum, or they have big emotions. And we're not necessarily growing up in a culture that really knows how to take care of those big feelings, right? We aren't taught. And maybe, maybe there's anger, maybe there's fear, maybe there's uncertainty, maybe there's a feeling of being powerless or disempowered, right? How do we claim those feelings, claim our hearts, claim our agency over our lives, even in the face of there being very necessary changes, very scary, right? Children, the root of their foundation is their parents. If their parents were unstable, if their parents were unavailable for love, if their parents were hurt, or, hurt people, that those instabilities, if their ancestors, even if we go back one generation, if their grandparents were struggling with starvation, different languages, different life needs, different limitations of consciousness, right? Evolution is always the perpetual development of consciousness towards love, towards our source, right? That is the ultimate calling that I believe that we are all called to return to source, to return to love, and that everything is a call for love. And right now with this Leo, with this Leo, new moon and this Leo, our hearts might be calling out so hard for love. Calling us to follow love, even into the unknown, right? Venus, she went down into the underworld as she passed through that Kazini. She went down. Where in the story of Inanna, she is taken, or volunteers, depends on your perspective of the story, taken down into the underworld to Pluto to follow a path of tests, of choices, of unraveling, unwinding in the underworld in order to reemerge, reborn as a star. And when she's making her way down, right? Anytime you go down into darkness, there isn't light, right? We have a dark moon right now. There isn't light, there isn't illumination, there isn't certainty, there isn't knowing of what the journey lies ahead. There isn't clarity around whether, are you going to get the desires of your heart? Are those longings that are calling you down into your soul's path, are they going to respond? Is the call going to be heard? Are you going to be met on the other side? Who are you going to be? What are you going to become? How are you going to grow? Are you going to let go of the past, of past relationship dynamics, of past conditioning, of past limitations that have kept you from the vulnerability of love, right? Because love seems like such a scary thing. So many people are running from what they believe is something that's going to entrap them or hurt them, or that's not love. But the very thing that would liberate them, the very thing that would give them everything that they desire, is love. And that very love is the most vulnerable, most powerful force on earth. It is the force of our Creator's unconditional, undefinable, unformable, unknowable, all-encompassing, the source of all life, of all love. And it is in everyone and everything, regardless of our awareness of it, regardless of whether we are rejecting it, running from it, because it seems to be disguised as resistance. It seems to be disguised as power or possession or another, or fear or domination or the past, right? We all fear repeating the past. That's why so many people leave relationships to pursue a new possibility, and then constantly bring the fear of the past repeating itself into the new possibility, because that is the healing, right? This is the healing. We are letting go into a new journey. And this new moon, which is tomorrow, Wednesday, begins a new journey of the self, of the heart, of the sovereign self. It begins a new cycle relative to Venus and her creativity and her expression and her voice and her value and her, and it's so interesting. I've been noticing, like, oh, I really want to cut off my hair, and I really want to, like, liberate, right? And where is that? It's that Venus is moving herself more deeply in to that square to Jupiter, to that, the sun is squaring Uranus. There is a breakthrough that can happen for us in this week, especially if there has been a breakdown, especially if there has been a breakup, especially if there has been some part of us that has been heartbroken by life, by the limitations of our circumstances, by the other, by the counterpart, by, whatever it is. There is this seed that we can plant within our hearts to grow a new light, a new commitment to our capacity to show up as love. And our capacity to show up as love is always going to be limited by the way we were taught love is as a child. And that often isn't the truth of love. So many people don't grow up with experiences of feeling like, I am loved, I am valued, I am enough. I am held by two very solid, capable, loving parents who love one another. I am supported by a community of people who love one another. I am being encouraged to develop my gifts, my medicine, my strength, my capacities as an individual expression of the divine. That's what we all are. And in this week, all the past ways in which we've been taught to please others, to relate, to hurt or be hurt may be coming up to be seen, right? And when the moon moves into the sign of Virgo, I see like, okay, there's this calling. And what does Virgo speak to? The purification process, the path of our spiritual practice. And that is one of the most, I've been talking to God so much this week, and it continues to be one of those, I don't know how prayers are going to be answered, right? I don't know when the miracle comes. I don't know how this transformation that we're all in, we're inside. Retrograde seasons are seasons of accelerated internalized soul growth. And we're making our way in this month towards one of the most intensified cycles of retrograde planetary movement, where pretty much every single planet except for Mars will be retrograde at some point in the next few weeks. So the heat, so to speak, is being turned up on our lives, where we can't really hold on to anything if we want to make it out and through the eye of the change. And so many people are losing and experiencing loss. One of the things that, has come up this week is the fires that are burning in Maui. And my mother was born and raised in Hawaii. My family lives there. I have lived there myself. I'm an astrologer on Astrology Hub, and their headquarters is in Maui, and people are deeply impacted, right, by this burning away of the very nature, the fabric of our lives that creates the center of our heart, right? The home, the heart, the land that we have a relationship to, the people that we have a relationship to. And in crisis, often, in heartbreak, often, in our grief, often, in loss, often, we receive something that we don't otherwise explicitly witness, which is that we see grace, we see kindness, we see tenderness, we see humanity, we see everything, the simultaneous destruction and suffering right alongside the healing. And it's almost like watching parallel tracks. I've been thinking about how with this Mercury in Virgo, we can really begin to see how the mind and its process, like the mind is not the heart. The mind can speak all kinds of stories. It can have all kinds of fears and doubts and worries, and it can have so much confusion, and it can be so challenged. It can spend a lot of time thinking about things and proliferating and going on and on about like theories and ideas, but the mind is not the heart. And the heart, in growing research, the heart holds the center of intelligence of the whole body. The heart, there's a place called the Heart Math Institute, and they point towards this research that the heart actually can creates the signals before the brain, before the mind, right? And the most intuitive and sensitive place inside of us, the soul, right? The untainted, unhurt, unwounded, the whole soul, the center of our being, the love that we are, it's never the mind. It's not the mind. It has no ideas about itself. Doesn't have, it's just the heart. It's pure loving awareness. Ram Dass used to say this thing, I am loving awareness. If that could be our mantra, And so as we're maybe healing, licking our wounds, healing the heart, purifying our minds, looking at the stories, how are we going to really, in this time of this new moon, write a new story that is the healing of our heart. That is the fulfillment of the longings of our heart. How do we come into a place that breaks us out of the past conditioning, right? Libra South Node, that we learn how to do relationship in a new way, that we learn how to love in a new way, that we learn how to speak our needs and our values from a place of wholeness and holiness, and that we find forgiveness for all the places. One of the things I've recognized in, so many times in the past week that I have just felt like, oh man, there I go again. This isn't who I want to be. This isn't how I want to be, man. One of the things that has touched me so deeply is this knowing, this sense that no matter what was happening in my life, no matter what was going on, that that forgiveness was immediate, that it was simultaneous, like to any error that I was making, to any sort of repeating the same patterns, right? We might be repeating the same patterns. We might be, and maybe we're not repeating the same patterns, but we're struggling with the ways in which the new way isn't revealed yet, right? Or the new path, or the healing, or the resolution, right? Pluto is resolving through the South Node. So there is so much karmic past that's being purified for us at this time. And it's not necessarily a clear present, clear future. And as we're walking through this and going, excuse me, going into, these places that feel so uncertain, a lot of what I've been facing is how our faith is tested in these times. How we can feel so small in the midst of really catastrophic events, right? We can feel so hurt in the midst of loss or change or uncertainty, right? And yet at the same time, there is a knowing within us that is guiding all of us. There is a faith that is beyond us that we maybe can't always have a grasp on. Like, I feel like it's been coming in waves, sometimes grief. Like, I have my hand on one side of the boat. Maybe I'm in the boat. Maybe I'm off the side of the boat. Maybe I'm rocking the boat. Maybe I'm holding onto a buoy and like being dragged behind the boat. Or maybe I'm trying with all my might to swim ahead because I want to move forward, right? And yet the current of change and of transformation, the larger waves of life and experience are bigger than, a little swimmer. There is a sense, though, that you could float, because you can float, There are definitely buoys along the way, and there is a greater field of love if that body of water that seems so stormy and so shaky and so uncertain, if that is what is carrying us actually through, right? It is carrying us through. There's some peace in that. And so as we move through this week where Mars is moving towards an opposition with Neptune, the new moon light will be this first light in Virgo, with Mercury, who's preparing. It's in his retrograde shadow. And there's an opportunity for a lot of self-reflection and a lot of revision to our story. And a part of what I've been looking at is like looking at the way that I teach, looking at the work that I do, looking at how I can be of service in a greater way, looking at the callings of my heart and how that has really pointed me in the direction of, this is the path that I'm here to walk. This is how I'm here to teach. So this Friday, I have an introduction class to Love Evolution, which is my 6-month class series. I open up the container for Love Evolution every 6 months, and the introduction class will give an entire overview of the Venus-Pluto cycle, the Venus-Mars cycle. And this particular cycle, we're ending with this month, the last 6-month cycle in the heart of the retrograde, with probably the most intensity behind us, really. I mean, I think that's the good news, friends, is that the majority is in the wake of the boat, and we are preparing in time of internalization to close this cycle and begin a new cycle. And the new cycle for my class series will begin in September, and it will be a journey of Venus direct through Leo, through the Virgo, Libra, crossing the South Node, crossing into Scorpio, Sagittarius, and moving all the way to her union with Pluto. And so we're going to go all the way down through the underworld, basically, through the path of fire, through the deeper internalized work with Venus the next 6 months, into her joining into her union with Pluto and Mars on the other side. And we will end with a retreat in the south of France, devoted to the pilgrimage path of Mary Magdalene. And so this is like really a powerful time of opening in this time, and a seeding of the deeper internal work. So I'll be offering that free class here. The link to that class is in the description of this video. If you want to join me, you can RSVP. You'll get the Zoom link to join the live class. If you don't make it for the live class, you can watch the replay that will be available. And I'll also be speaking a bit about a small group that I'm starting, which is called Growing Together. I've decided in this retrograde season to discontinue doing my month ahead evolution student membership, and to really focus my energies on mentoring budding astrologers, people who are developing their skills as astrological counselors, guides, teachers, mentors, and using this tool of astrology as a vehicle for healing. And in Growing Together, we'll be focusing on growing a business, growing a practice, growing our skills, growing our union with this wisdom, with this tool, with this information. And so that small group will also begin in September, and I will be really devoting my energy to mentoring and walking together with peers and students of astrology. You don't have to be wanting to become an astrologer in order to benefit from being in this group. And both of those classes, Growing Together and Love Evolution, will come together every month for the new moon ceremony. That'll be my free offering to my community of students. But I'm no longer going to be doing the month ahead, because I will be doing other things and building my energy and supporting others to grow, and supporting our path towards union, our evolution towards love in partnership, love in connection, love in unity and love that is rooted in our equality and our devotion to creating a new earth, creating a new reality of how we are raising children and family, and creating a new reality in terms of how we are loving and devoting ourselves and follow the longings of the heart, give peace of mind, and let us join together. So my friends, I hope that you'll join me for that. Everything that you need to know is on my website, astrologywithmichelle.com. As always, if you'd like to book a session with me, you can do so. I will put a special link to my Astrologer Connect profile with Astrology Hub, because this week I'm going to be offering instant readings where you can call me and even just talk to me for 5 minutes. And during those instant readings, I will be available and donating 100% of those proceeds to fire victims in Maui through Astrology Hub. So there's all kinds of information. Please, we will be passing the blessings along. Come and join me, and have a blessed week, my friends. Bye for now.